Welcome to the Predictive Playbook, the Manny's Pub edition here. Sorry for starting a little bit late today. We're just trying to figure out which jokes to filter out of our conversations. And that did take a while today. But I have my regular crew with me today, Rob Vino and Tony Finn in the house. And I'm telling you, Tony's in, I think he's in one of those really humorous moods of his. So it should be quite interesting today. He's coming off an NBA show, too, that I heard was pretty wild. So if you didn't see the NBA Wager Talk show that I constantly tell you to watch, this would be the day, especially if you have like a 70-inch TV. I hear if you watch it on that, it's actually even better.
You get to see, listen, you watch it on 70-inch TV, you get to see everything that's below, like your pictures. You should see the stuff below, and who the hell knows what people are wearing, in one of these shows. So get a big TV.
Well, that's interesting, Rob, because when I was on Wall Street, the lights were pretty hot there at Bloomberg and CNBC. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, it was shorts with a suit. So it looked like I had a suit on, but it was, golf shorts. It was all very appropriate.
Yeah, of course.
So I had the pleasure of having a debut today. Fox Sports Philadelphia, Channel 29's Etan Shander was on. And we really had a good discussion about the Sixers. We had a good discussion about the Eagles. Little discussion about Howie Rosen. That was point blank, in my opinion. It's just a mystery what that franchise is doing. They admit that they really don't have a plan for the offensive scheme and right on down the line. So who knows what they're going to do in the draft. But while we're on the subject, why don't we just talk about it briefly? And then we'll get to the Sixers and the Milwaukee, because he had some good news on that too. So in the draft, there's a prop bet that I wanted to bounce off you guys a couple of days ago. Number of offensive players drafted in the first round, 18.5 was the line at MGM. And I say under. And I say under like by a lot, like by 2 or 3 spots. However, the Eagles are one of those teams that I identified that, probably should take a cornerback. I forget who the guy is that is really high on the radar, at least in my opinion. It's not Hart. You guys can help me.
It's got to be. It's Joe Horn's kid, J.C. Horn.
Yes, that's who it is. Yep, that was close. Hart, H-A-R-T, Horn. I mean, I had 3 of the 4 letters right.
Yeah.
But seriously, 18.5, and the Eagles could be one of the teams that could screw up my bet, which would be that'd be disappointing. But I think 18.5 is too high, and the public is thinking offense, quarterbacks, but they forget that there's that draft from pick 18 to the end of the first round. And I think that's where a lot of these defensive cornerbacks are going to get gobbled up. But the whole Eagles situation, saying that Jalen Hurts is not the starting quarterback, I find kind of ridiculous. But I guess they can have a little competition. But, Jalen Reagor was another topic we talked about, and I really was high on him. I thought that was a great pick by the Eagles. He's kind of like the same body frame as Antonio Brown, and perhaps just a tad faster than he was when Antonio Brown was first coming into the league. Reagor's been timed at 4.29 in the 40. He had a terrible combine in the 40, and he dropped down the draft board. But Eagles could have taken Jefferson from LSU. I thought they got the right guy. I think with Jalen Hurts being able to throw those long balls with touch, in other words, he throws rainbows, and he basically throws the ball as far as he can, and a guy like Reagor is going to run it down. Where, with Carson Wentz, all Carson Wentz was doing was throwing lasers that were 50-yard, laser beams that were easily defended or really hard to catch. But what do you guys think about my prop bet going under 18.5 offensive players?
Well, I'm surprised it's that high, John, because in most of these mock drafts, a mock draft is a mock draft, right? But some of it's based on what these guys hear, and what they hear a lot of times is BS. So who knows what's going to happen here? But in most of those that you see, the number of offensive players is around 15 or 16, not 18 and a half. So there would have to be some, and there's probably going to be some trades inside that first round, some trades back into the first round, and really difficult to gauge. But I think when you get to 26 through, 40, it's anybody's ball game at that point, and that's where your bet will be decided. Those last 7 picks, and what those last 7 slots, who occupies those, and which way they decide to go, because the talent at that point in time becomes really equal and just personal preference. So we'll see. But like I say, if you're just going off of, if you go and print out 6, 8 mock drafts right now, you're going to find, I think every single one of them tells you under 18 and a half offensive players. So, I'm just surprised that the odds makers set it that high. I don't know what they're looking at.
Well,
Generally speaking, I would think they're just looking at a mock draft and counting numbers and then putting a number up on the board, but who knows?
Yeah, it was Bet MGM, and it was the last time I looked at it was a day and a half ago. So maybe it's come down, to be fair, but I think I would bet it under if it was 16 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
There's there are teams in the second half of the draft that could flip, that are.
Yeah, because your first 10 picks, you're going to be sitting there and you're going to hear offense, including tackles, right? And then you'll hear maybe one defensive name called. But then when you get to 18, all of a sudden the tide turns and you're going to see defense, or even from 15 down. So, I'm just curious to see that it's that high. I don't know how they make their draft numbers, to tell you the truth. Odds makers, like I say, I would think it would be a simple process. Go print out a bunch of mock drafts, count them up, and put a number up and see where the market carries it. But there can't be a real thought process to it, I wouldn't think.
I stay away from those. I stay away from those for a couple of reasons. One, because of what Rob just explained. 2, because I truly believe that all you need is 2 or 3 teams to maybe miss out on who their projected player would be for number 1. And if they don't get that player, it completely changes, and you don't know. And listen, I want to make a bet where I might have some information or some intel that would lead me to believe the probability is high on my push, on my investment. And in this kind of a situation you're describing, a number of this and that, is just so many variables that would destroy me. And whether at least my thinking process, and it could be something similar to the Eagles, who moved down. Didn't they move down from 6 to 12?
Yes, and that's the reason why I thought they would take defense then at that point. That
right. I mean, I think they targeted Chase. I think they were going to go wide receiver until they moved down, and their target, who I think their target was, is going to be gone by 12.
Right. And to Tony's point, right then and there, if in fact, somehow, some way, somebody like Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle ends up available at 12, the Eagles are taking them. Yeah. So, and then if it's already taken, and those 3 wide receivers, Chase, Waddle, Smith, the tight end, Pitts, if they're gone, then the Eagles have to go to plan B, which is probably cornerback, linebacker, something.
A lot of variables.
Side. So it's just too much. Like Tony says, if you miss out on the guy you targeted, and you have to change direction, that could be an immediate offense to defense switch or a defense to offense switch, and it's just hard to project those. And then with all these teams jockeying to move up and move down, and we'll give you our first, and you want defensive guys, and they want offense, and it is difficult. It's really a crapshoot. There are a lot of those just individual player props. Such and such a player will be drafted above or beneath 6.5. Number pick, you know what I mean? And those, I talk to guys who find they have a better opportunity with those. They can sort of gauge where guys are going a little bit better, but still, with these quarterbacks involved here, trades are going to get in the way. And
hey, listen, you can get 50,000 to 1 on the Eagles picking a kicker, punter, or a long snapper in the first pick. There you go.
And it ain't going to happen. Unless they want to watch this town burn to the ground.
Unless they have a bet at 50,000 to 1,
right?
Themselves, right? Which I'm quite certain that you can't put a whole lot down on 50,000 to 1. That's what I know.
50 cents just to be involved, just in case.
Well, yeah, it's good.
You would feel like a real jerk if they actually did that.
Well,
and maybe you could get a parlay that they do that kind of draft, and then the parlay would be that the Philadelphia Fire Department would be called out within an hour of that pick.
Yeah. So of all the people jumping out of their windows,
or no,
all
just
the Philly fans jumping out of their windows,
trash can fires.
Oh, yeah, or it could be shootings where somebody's headed down to the front office, starts shooting windows out of the Eagles front.
Well, that wouldn't be fire trucks then. That would be a different bet.
It would be, but you know what? They may have to call the fire trucks too. Philly fans, I know you Philly fans.
Yeah, you need to have a barge down there to catch the people jumping off the Ben Franklin Bridge, for sure.
You see how you guys see how I think out of the box sometimes like this?
Mm-hmm. That's what you call
fascinating,
it.
Isn't it?
When I think out of the box, they call it something else.
To the point about Jalen Reagor, real quick, it was funny last night, John, to see you mentioned that on the day after Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver from LSU that they didn't pick, comes out and publicly says he's glad he's not an Eagle. He thought he was going to the Eagles, and he's glad he's on the Vikings. Now, it was an interesting, to have a guy be that candid and say, I thought I was going to be an Eagle. I thought they were taking me, and I'm glad they didn't because I'm much happier on the Vikings. And I know he's talking about situations because the Eagles offensively they were a mess last year, and they don't really have any idea, as to your point. And I'd like to hear what your guest said because I didn't hear the show. But
I did see this, guys. I saw somewhere, and I don't recall where it was, but the Eagles, they had the player prop, or the props were essentially two players. It was like plus 150, plus 180, or plus 190, something like that. Either wide receiver, cornerback, first round. After that, it was down to 50 plus 500, 8 plus 800. So the books are quite convinced that there's going to be wide receiver or corner. So
probably
a long snapper pick, I think that would be.
I'm in.
You know how important those guys are. Seriously.
Yeah, but it is probably the best job in the world.
I know this. I know how important they are. I was a long snapper in high school, and I wasn't the long snapper for very long. That was a pretty important position.
Well, then you were a short snapper.
Who did I snap to? I snapped to an NFL punter.
Well, that's pretty cool.
How many people can say that in high school?
Not Ray Guy.
Bucky Scribner. Bucky passed away recently in your area. He had a brain tumor. Rest in peace, Bucky. But Bucky he got blackballed. He was the first punter in the NFL history to hold out. And guess who he was playing for? He's playing for Packers. Guess who the coach was for the Packers
Vince
at that
Lombardi.
time? Huh?
Forrest Gregg.
And Forrest Gregg made calls to every coach and said, "Do not sign this prick. Do not sign this prick." He set out for 2 years, then got signed with Seattle. He eventually got his 5 years, got tenured. Got his tenure. He went to Pratt Junior College in Kansas for 2 years. Then he went to play for Bud Moore and Jayhawks. But I can't remember if Bud Moore was still there. But it was right after Nolan Cromwell was the wishbone quarterback for the Bear Bryant's Bud Moore at Kansas. But long story short, he was an All-American at that point, All Big Eight then, All-American, and was an All NFC. It was an All NFC punter at one time. Left-footed and kicked a knuckleball. Almost impossible to catch this. I mean, if you're the punt returner, it's coming down and it's going 2 feet to the right. 2 feet. It was just murderous. I have a lot of respect for punt returners who have people coming down at them, at 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour. Yeah. It's a good story,
Great stuff.
More of those. Huh?
What'd you learn from Fox 29, John?
Well, Eton was told us, basically what we just talked about with the Eagles. The Bucks Sixers game tonight in summary form, reading between the lines, sounds like a throw-in game or a throwaway game, I should say, for the Sixers. I believe what we'll see at 5:30 here, if it's almost there, with the injury report, that MB will be the only one of the usual starting five that is questionable. And then I guess you would think that if they don't stay within 10 points by the half, he probably doesn't play the second half. So he was saying that he would bet the Bucks up to 9.5. That is something he did say on the show.
I was more interested in the total. I think we were talking about. I just believed that. I thought Philly was going to play a little bit of playground basketball tonight. I just didn't think they felt like this was a good situation for them to push all in with personnel on a back-to-back on a night like this where Milwaukee's off on 3-9. I just felt like it was just my thinking was the situation was perfect for Milwaukee, and that Philly would say, okay, listen, if we're going to win this game, we're going to win it with running up and down the court against you and basically just sagging and making Milwaukee shoot jumpers. Now, that's how Milwaukee wins games, but I just think this is a pretty good situation for the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm looking at the betting flows here on wagertalk.com/odds, and it gives me a gut feeling, and sometimes my gut feelings are, because of eating the wrong foods, but
gas. Yes.
Yeah. But this makes me think that maybe Embiid is playing, because it's 7.5 back at Circa and Westgate. I think it was 8.5 earlier, like 3 hours ago, wasn't it? Like 8.5.
It was 8.5.
Yeah,
2 hours ago.
Yeah, and it's 7.5, pretty solid across the board. Penny's at 7.5 minus 106. Yeah, interesting, huh?
I'm showing Embiid, the guy. This one of the guys I use he's not a big side, but he makes a lot of calls, and he has Embiid in the starting lineup tonight. Here's who he has though. He has Ben Simmons, and I understand Ben Simmons is out though. Am I right about that?
That's what he said on the show too. Him and Tobias Harris.
He has projected. This is just his projected. When he gets the word, he puts official. Which he has no official yet. None, not one lineup, which doesn't surprise me. It's craziness. Just craziness.
Well, Ben's is funny. Like I was saying on the NBA tip-off show, when they're listed as illness, non-COVID illness, right? We see that a lot on the injury report, non-COVID illness. Last couple of weeks around the league, there's been individuals on teams where that's been posted, non-COVID illness. And I went back and checked a lot of these guys, and it seems like it's a 2-game absence, and then boom, they're back for the third. Now, I don't know if Ben has missed 2 because of it already. Whether or not they hold him back tonight, or whether or not Tony's guy is correct in his assumption or his feeling that Ben will be in the starting lineup, it makes a bit of a difference. Either way, I don't know how much.
It makes a big difference defensively for me. Sure. I would, if Ben's in, I'm not going to be on the over. See, so
and the first game, I think I referenced the very first game they played on the show, where Philadelphia held Milwaukee to 31 points in the first half, and that was without Joel Embiid. Joel didn't play that game, but the other 3 guys that are questionable tonight, they did play. Curry played, Tobias played, and Ben played. And they were great off defensively first half, only allowed 31. They allowed 62 second half. I think the final goes overtime, 109-105, but it was a real good defensive outing by the Sixers. Milwaukee shot lousy from 3, 23% in that game because Philly was hounding them. But, if 3 of the 4 don't play, I would have to agree with Tony that the over, if it's Joel Embiid and the other 3 sit out again, I would think over is a pretty good play at 225.5, because in that instance, Philadelphia's not going to slow Milwaukee down without 3 of those 4 guys. It's just not going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see. Those question marks make it hard.
Yeah, that's what we have. That's what we have. You can take a position in game live on this one.
Yep. Perfect situation. If you like the Sixers, or you like the Bucks, you're absolutely right.
Find out who's playing. Yep,
and there's no rush to bet here before the game, not at all.
Now, Etan, what's his last name, John?
Shander, Shander.
Now, his assessment or analysis that Philadelphia might just throw it in tonight, and he would play Bucks. I think that also lays credence to an overplay, like Tony said, because if they're going to throw it in, it's going up and down. The Bucks would love that. Throw it in because we're going to run,
Yeah.
we're going to shoot threes. Whether Giannis has a sprained big toe or a hurt big toe or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because we've seen a zillion times that even without Giannis, that team scores.
Yes,
They'll make 25 threes without Giannis. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, from that, with that perspective from him, would almost make me lean over in this game.
Like the over. It reminds me of that one game with Milwaukee where their starters didn't play, and I think the total went from 231 down to 224, and you were adamant I'm not playing the over, and
right,
both of you guys were, and I guess there was like 260 points scored.
Chase injuries. Those injury chasers have not profited
No.
in the NBA this year.
It didn't work last night again. The Clippers had all those guys, right? And the Clippers cover easily.
Yep. They did. Yes, they did. Yeah.
And in fact, Memphis, to boot, they got back Jaren Jackson Jr., hadn't played a game all season long, missed the first 56 games, comes back last night. Memphis goes all the way to 4.5.
Yeah.
Favorite, win the first half, but get absolutely smoked in the second
half. You see, I don't know about you guys, but I believe it's a liability. A guy who hasn't played in a while, not just a year. I'm talking about a guy who hadn't played in a week or 2 weeks, typically, much like Tatis when he returned for that the Dodgers Padres series last weekend, Thursday through Saturday or Friday through Sunday, whatever it was. They need, most of the time, those guys are fine-tuned machines anyway. They need a little bit of time to get their eye hand and some timing back. And I just always, when I see that, that's, for me, it's almost an automatic fade. If I'm either out of the game or if a key figure comes back or a key player comes back and it is that much of an adjustment to the number, I'm typically out of that room, or I'm fading that team.
That's what's funny about this year, Tony, because the money moves reactively, moves the line just off of injury reaction. I mean, let's put it this way. At 7:30 in the morning, East Coast time, when I wake up, and the line on the Clippers-Memphis game has gone from Clippers 1 to Memphis 3, that's not because the public is betting. The smart money, for whatever reason, is getting involved in this injury chasing this year, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, or it is, and that's the important. You just mentioned something very important. Know the difference between short money move and an adjustment. Sometimes it's just, listen, there's so much piggybacking goes on now in our business as far as books go. There's a few books that not only put the overnights up, and believe me when I tell you that unless you're somebody special, your overnights are going to be limited. They're going to put those outlaw lines up, and sometimes $1,000 will move the number. It's smaller books that don't have that kind of a handle. But you're right, and what happens then is, if one book takes a big play somewhere and they move and they make that a point and a half, whatever they have to do to attract some action back on the other side. In many cases, you can't arb. We've talked about this. You can't arb anymore.
Yep.
You can't do any of those middles hardly anymore, because every book will adjust. They're all tied together. They all see what each other are doing, and they piggyback and make adjustments, whether they caught any money on that specific team or not, or player, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it takes a lot of years to learn it. I mean, the three of us, between us, there's a lot of experience. I know myself, this is my 29th year in business doing this. Tone, you got the same amount. John, you've been around just as long. And to be able to, I mean, and I'm not even saying I can 100% accurately read the market, but to be able to at least distinguish some things is so important. And like I say, it's taken me 29 years. I'm still learning something every day. But a guy told me a long time ago when I got to Las Vegas, looking at a college football board one week, right? And Sunday night, at that time, when I was in Las Vegas, the Stardust used to take the first numbers, get your first whack. You'd get in line, 100 guys. You draw a number. That's the spot you have in line. You can make there was a limit on your bet, and then you had to go to the back of the line again and start all over again. And that would make the market. And there were people that I knew that come Monday morning would play every single line move blindly. And a guy, when I was still just learning, he told me, he said, you know what, you play those line moves, you'll be a 50-50 better for your entire life, because some of those things are false line moves to create numbers that these syndicates want. And then they're coming back the other way. And Joe Q Public is stuck with his fist up his rear end because they can't, they're not in the financial situation to find their way out of it, So you have to be able to distinguish and read these lines. It takes a lot of savvy. It takes a lot of years. And again, I'm not claiming to be 100% accurate at it, but at least I can see indicators. They take a long time to learn, and a lot of maybe a lot of losing bets to learn.
Yeah,
what's wrong?
Yeah, you got to fail a few times. Definitely fail more. Fail to learn how to succeed. And many, and what you just add to address what you just spoke to, Rob, is timing. What time of day? For the most part, if it's 7 a.m. Eastern or 7 a.m. at 8, right in that time. It's either an adjustment or sharp money, because the public isn't standing in line 100 deep at 7 a.m.
Right.
At a book.
No question. They're coming along right now. It's 5:30 at night. Here's where the public money's coming now.
That's correct. Yes. That's correct. And then in this day and age too, you don't have to necessarily be in line. It's public don't make those bets at 8 a.m, with the majority of them probably being online now, as opposed to when you were speaking of the Stardust. Stardust used to buy that opening line. They were the ones to get that opening line. They bought it from, White was involved. Now he's with CBS, and he actually works with the NCAA. But that used to be, Stardust got that bought. They bought the opening line before the internet was prevalent, and that's where the action was. First thing in the morning.
I feel like in the early 90s when I was there, it was Kenny's dad.
That's right. It was
Pete White.
Dad. Yep.
Who Kenny learned the business from, and Kenny's about as sharp a guy as there is, but his dad was pretty influential.
Yes, he was.
In the markets back then.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff, man. What you're talking about is similar to like in the market of Wall Street, where you have it looks like a powerful rally. Like an example would be like, say Apple goes from 220 to 228 in a day, and it looks like wow, that's a powerful rally. But there's a difference between a pure buying rally and then short covering rally, and that requires some experience to be able to determine which is which. But that's the way you were talking about the board and analyzing it. It's the same process. You can't believe everything that you see.
Right. Don't believe your lying eyes, right? Do not believe your lying eyes.
Yep.
All the time.
Smoke screens everywhere, even in the draft.
I hate the smoke and mirrors, because then I'm looking at myself and I can't tell which to think.
That's why I wear garlic around my neck when I get this to a mirror.
Did you say garland or garlic?
Garlic.
Oh.
Christmas all year long when you're Tony Finn. Put some garland on.
You never know. When I got to have garlic. So if I walk by a mirror and I'm not in that mirror, is it really a dream? Was it just a flashback from the 60s and some bad acid? I don't know. So I just wear the garlic.
Wow.
Audience learns something new every day.
It's true. That's what's great about this show. I always, I always feel good when I leave this show, and I guess out a little bit more, and I'm walking confidently. And
oh, that's so good, John. Because I said this, I watch Shameless. Not that I think it's great, but every time I watch Shameless, I feel better about me. I step away from that show and I say, I'm really not that bad a person after all. I'm coming back next week. I'm watching the show again. I feel better about myself.
When Jerry Springer was so popular, you could, you're having a really, really bad day, you could watch that and you'd feel like $1 million, right?
Yeah.
As long as nobody on it was a relative of yours.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I believe the three of us. If we get a call from Jerry Springer's producer, and they said, "Listen, we're giving away $1 million, and we'd like you to your name was drawn for one of the participants. We need you to fly down here and be on the show." I'd say, "F you," and don't lose my number, because I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And even if you're telling the truth, I will pass up $1 million effing before I'll even get within 2 blocks of Jerry Springer's backstage. Because it's trouble. Am I wrong? If
No,
going on the Phillies, it's trouble.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is.
There's no winning in that. Especially when they would fight each other and pull each other's hair and
no,
right.
No.
But at that point you realize that I really don't have it that bad.
No, you're right. You're right. That's right. Or I'm not. I thought I was the worst person in the world. After that, that thing that happened last night in the bar, drank too much. But I'm not. I'm not
right.
the worst person in the world. Yeah.
It's amazing what sleep can do for the persona.
Or what it can bring back. That's the problem. Sleep sometimes bring back memories that you didn't think you'd ever remember or want to remember. So
here comes the Philadelphia money, guys, as we speak.
Okay.
By the way, I'm seeing 6.5s out there now at a couple, especially one very, very key shop, and the 7s are very low juice. Even some plus money on 7 now. So somebody is playing for the Sixers. I can give you a shot here real quick before we go off, John. I know you got to run. Let me see if we can figure out. Ben Simmons is out. Ben is out again.
Official?
Official. Ben is out due to illness. Fork and Korkmaz is questionable. So what we're seeing is yes on Tobias Harris, it looks like.
Yeah. Tobias Harris is playing?
It looks like a yes on Tobias Harris. It looks like
I'm seeing a yes on Seth Curry.
Yes, yes on Seth Curry.
Yep.
Those two guys aren't on the injury report anymore.
Okay. Joel Embiid is still showing up as a yes or available.
I show that as well. Yep, available.
So the line move is based on Tobias Harris playing.
And Curry, I would say. You got 3 starters in that lineup now.
If you have those guys in that lineup with no Ben Simmons, then
that's an overplay.
Yeah, it's an over. I agree. Yep. It is. It's an over.
What about
in my world?
Yeah, Rob, you usually have a pretty good feel on our buddy Thibault, the cloning of Ben Simmons. Basically, you think he starts tonight?
You know what? There is no Korkmaz. It would probably come down to him or, Danny Green will start, right? It'll be Danny Green.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Seth,
Danny Green. Yeah.
Tobias, Joel Embiid, and
I'll tell you here.
Possibly.
Let's do this. How about this?
It won't be George Hill. I don't know that it'll be Shake Milton.
Shake?
I was thinking if they really wanted to try to win the game, that they need his presence on the floors for as many minutes as possible.
Well, I'm thinking size-wise, without a power forward there, it might even be Mike Scott to take the starter minutes.
I would say that I think it's Mike Scott.
Yeah, I would kind of lean that way as well, Tony, just for positional purposes.
Yeah.
I
think Milton's a stretch. I mean, he really doesn't fit that power. Well, he just didn't fit that role. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Mike Scott's the player.
Yeah, because
he had a pretty good game. A couple of nights ago, he did pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can help out interior and on the boards, Joel, because the other 3 guys are guards and wings, right? Curry, Green, and Tobias Harris are guards and wings, so you don't need a 4th one, I don't think.
No.
But there'll probably be some lineups during the game where there are 4 guards, which I think, again, Tone, in reference to the overplay, it's more likable by the minute.
And I know they do some switching and ducking and juking when Ben, you guys are big Philly fans, when Ben is officially out, how do they address the ball handling role for the most part? Because I know they don't put the full load on one player. It's a lot to ask of a player anyway in the NBA, but.
Yeah, well, that's why they got George Hill now.
Right.
They can disperse it between Curry, Hill, Shake Milton. Somebody will be on the floor at all times, but George Hill really being that's the reason why they got that guy. Oh, and he's finally back on the floor.
Yeah, good. It's I remember last year with LeBron, I used to say it all the time on our NBA show. Without LeBron, the Lakers last year, they won a championship, really didn't have a point guard. They don't have a true point guard. Not that LeBron's a true point guard, in my opinion, first off, but without him, they had nobody to bring the ball up. Then they got playoff Rondo, right?
Yep.
That's right.
John,
they got the playoff.
Real quick to what Tony's saying, it'll be 2 bets in a row because last night Portland does cover. We left the people with Portland plus 1.5, right? But it's the second game in a row where I personally have faded Denver because they have one point guard, period,
correct.
Campazzo, and he's a
Yes.
backup point guard at that.
Yes.
And granted, Denver has won both games. Give him credit. Won overtime against Memphis. Won by 1 point last night against Portland. But they
But no
didn't cover
cover.
either. No
Right.
covers. So
Yep.
it's been 2-0 so far. And if they're going to continue to have one point guard, I'll probably continue to play against Denver.
Especially if they're playing somebody that has a backcourt player that's defensively capable of causing chaos with no point guard on the opponents.
You know who it is
especially
tomorrow
then.
night for them? You know who it
Who
is
is?
tomorrow night for Denver? Golden State.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I don't think I think we'd all agree to this, and that is that Curry doesn't get near as much credit when he's on the court. He's not a guy that stands out defensively, but he doesn't get enough credit for what he can create defensively and again and again and again. When people, he's on the court, I'm going to be on the under. Well, depends on who they're playing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tony, you had mentioned baseball here. We can probably end on this.
Yeah.
You wanted to know, I think, stuff about the Yankees starts and
Not Yankees, just an overview, basically of team. Let's put it this way: to put a parameter on it, make it easier for you, maybe, because I don't want to be subjective and say a bad April start. What's a bad April start? I would think in less than 10 wins or less than 9 or 10 wins in April of those teams since 95, the wild card era. How many of them made the playoffs? Not succeeded, just made the playoffs.
10 or fewer.
Let's say, call it 10 or fewer. I'm going to guess you're going to have 10 or fewer teams make it. I think if you reduce that to 8 or 9, you may have less than that. I'm just guessing.
Let's see what we get here.
Okay.
So the Yankees have 8 days left to win 4 games to get to
Well,
that. Well,
I'm going to say that, or their probability reduces to a 10%, and they had 5, 8, 10, 9% probability of being a playoff team.
Mm.
Now we do have. It's a little different now because of they've added another wild card. Right?
Very true.
Right. So,
There's a chance.
so my probabilities are probably inaccurate. I'm basing it on the true wild card. As soon as we went from the basically from 4 divisions, 4 playoff teams.
Well, initially here, I'm getting none. Right, since 2004. Let me just do this part of the query here. All right, so less than 10 wins in April. All right, so here we go. We don't know what the Yankees are, but it's by far their worst start. Their worst season. 2019, they were 10-8. So maybe we want to use 8 wins.
I'll tell you what, John. I'll make it easier for you. How about this? Maybe your database would tell me if this is easier. How many teams have had less than 10 wins in April since 95 in the wild card era, or 2004, whatever your database goes back to? How many teams have had less than 10 wins? And then if you come up with a 10 or 15 or 90, at least I can start looking. It's pretty easy to look up that way. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this then. It'll take me 1 second here. Man. The Jeopardy music in the background.
What's that? Oh yeah. Who's the new? There's a. What's the odds on who's the next Jeopardy host?
I heard Aaron Rodgers did pretty good.
I think it's going to be Joe Buck.
That's what I hear too. It's going to be Joe Buck, and I find that I just find it peculiar, different, surprise.
Oh, the number of teams that have had that 10 or fewer wins in the month of April is come on.
Well,
Roll through that.
if there's more than 100, then we want to reduce it down to 9 or 8 because I don't want to look up 100 teams.
Well, it looks like there's 237 occurrences since 2004.
Let's go to
So
let's go to 8 or 9 because I'm going to guess. I'm looking at the standings right now and the games left, and we're going to have a few of those teams this year. Are we not?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Rob? We're going to have a couple of those teams.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math in my head, thinking that baseball starts, and in a couple of instances, it even started the end of March. A couple of years.
We've had a few.
Yeah.
Last year it's March, but it's always just a couple games in March, and typically all the teams have an equal number of games through May 1st. Some of them may have started on March 29th or 28th. That some may have gone to Japan. If you remember, we had Seattle 2 years ago when they went 14 they had that terrific start. They had beat out the Angels or somebody in Japan and had a good start out there.
So what do we figure? About 25 games apiece in the month of April, probably. Is that a good estimate? Total games played in April?
It is good. Yeah.
So we're talking about teams that are 10 and 15 or 9.
Well, let's put it this way. Yeah, I'm trying to think. If you're 8 and 22 or 8 and 18 like that,
right?
That's what I'm 10 and 15 doesn't seem insurmountable.
Can you do it by win percentage, John?
I can.
Total wins.
That would
maybe
I would defer that to tomorrow's show, but
okay.
I
can
mean,
definitely
maybe you're
do it.
looking for like sub, like 375 win percentage or something like that, which is probably what is 8 and 18, Tone? I'm going to use that number 8 divided by 26. That's even worse. Wow, that's
32%.
Yeah, that's a low win. So maybe you do it by win percentage, Tone, and those teams never come back to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I can include the years that the season started in March. That's easy enough.
Yes. Yeah, I would because listen, it's March. This year was in April 1st, but for the most part, every year it seems to me we have a game one or 2 days in March. We do have some action. So
yeah, teams freezing their asses.
And I'll do some research. You work on that, John, and I'll work on it tonight too. But because I know there's some guys I can call, they're tougher to get a hold of. I see you every day. That's why I ask you. So, and they see Tony Finn's calling, they're gonna say, "Oh shit, what's he want?"
Bail money.
So, but I'm curious. I'm really curious because I keep getting. I can't tell you the number of communications that I get and I ignore. And I don't mean to say that no one should ever try to communicate because I can't get them all. I can't read them all. I can't do it every day. And so there's just certain ones but if it's an office communication, obviously I pay attention. So I'm getting these. Here's the latest prop on, for instance, the Yankees being a 500 team. And some of the numbers they've sent me, I want to scream. I say, listen, if you tell me where I can get that, and you tell me what my limit is to play, because I'm betting I'll take that. I'll take that shot without question. Then I was chatting with someone last night who I respect, and I started talking about the Yankees, started talking about the Twins and those kind of things. Although I would have played under in the Twins, and I did play under in St. Louis, for instance, who's really starting to show some of their holes. And he said, "Well, be careful," because I don't. He goes, "Think about it, Tony, without looking it up. Think about some of the teams that have had slow starts in the last 5 years or 10 years." And so I started thinking about it. I thought, not only did they have a bad April, some of these teams who were projected to be better than they ended up being had bad Mays. They didn't even follow up with a good month. So
yeah.
Well,
when I get back from my little bowling activity tonight with league, I'll run it, and then I can send it over to you, and then we can also talk about it on the show tomorrow at 4:30.
Okay, good enough then.
Or 4:45. Whenever.
Yeah, I have a job for you, John, that I think maybe we can use to give you some, not necessarily FaceTime, but to give you some voice time or some verbal recognition time on one of the on a couple of the national radio shows I do. And if
That'd
I
be awesome.
present a question to you, I can. It's something that it's always interesting to talk about on some of these late shows I do, and it can't hurt you. If I say, "Hey, listen, the brilliant John
Kelly
has this."
Well, my daughter's name is Kelly, so
There you go.
Listen, there was a Ask Rob. He's an expert on John Kelly.
Yeah,
by the way.
I am.
Yeah. And there was
I
a
am.
famous John Kelly in Vegas for years and years who does exactly what you do, exactly almost.
Yeah, he was a radio show host. John Kelly hosted the Stardust Invitational. I was telling those guys when I was involved in it, I got picked to be in that twice. He was the host of that show, so pretty well known guy around Las Vegas for sure.
So you might want to consider changing your name. First off, at least your pseudo, your stage name, right? It should be. I probably should be John Kelly.
Yeah, or Machine Gun Kelly,
or something. That's interesting too.
Or I guess there wasn't a Machine Gun Ryan.
Maybe we don't know. Well, I think there was. Didn't they do? It wasn't that hit. They did a show about him when he's a private.
Well, they didn't make a movie out of him, so
Private Ryan. I think they did.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, there you go. Now man, that is a movie.
That's the hardest opening scene to watch in a movie.
Whew.
That's a tough opening scene to get through, boy. First time I saw that, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, that is that makes all the rest of them look like romper room.
And God bless all of those who stick their necks and other body parts out and defend us and keep us safe and secure. But there's nothing glorious about that. Nothing glorious when they show scenes like that, is it?
No,
not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of guts and a lot of moxie to know that.
That's what I told him. That's what I told him, that you guys have to start saying. I have a lot of guts and moxie. Say, no, Tony, that's not what we say about you. You didn't go to war.
All right, so beverage in hand tomorrow. Friday happy hour.
Yeah, Friday happy hour will be probably a total of 6 or 7 popping in and out, from what I'm told. So it should be really a lot of fun, and we can definitely talk about this. The worst team in April to make the playoffs type of thing, and just run right down the history of it. And also on sportsreference.com, they actually have a back end where I can use SQL, which is the Microsoft query language.
Yes.
No relationship to SDQL, but I can do that too. And that goes back all the way to 1884. And my big database goes back to 1884 by player.
Is that any relation to NRBQ? That's what I keep asking people.
I've asked that question 100 times. I never get a straight answer, so I don't know.
I'll call Springsteen.
Springsteen.
Yeah,
Springsteen Kelly.
NRBQ, the New Rhythm and Blues Quartet, right there, not very far from you guys. They were on the Jersey Shore. They were Bruce Springsteen's competition when Bruce was starting to make it big, in Jersey. There, it was NRBQ, who's done quite a few albums. And anybody listening, I strongly suggest that you go out and buy an NRBQ album, because I still get some commission from those I sell. And listen, Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, NRBQ. I don't know. How about Southside Johnny and Asbury Jukes? Anybody know about them?
Yeah.
Buy their album too.
That's vinyl, right? That's what they call vinyl?
Huh?
No,
NRBQ.
Vinyl,
I'm kidding about NRBQ. Springsteen's competition with Southside Johnny. But I like NRBQ. But, Southside Johnny's famous. All I Want Is Everything. It's a good song. All I Want's Everything.
Not much.
I think that'll be my bullpen music when I become a major league pitcher.
All right, so I'll see you guys tomorrow at 4:30. Thanks for being part of this. It's awesome, and I'll get that data to you guys, especially Tony, as soon as I have a chance, because I'm curious to know too.
Good luck to everyone tonight.
Yep.
Who are we rooting for?
As we always say,
rooting for a long snapper. Philly's long
Tony, the long snapper.
50
And
down.
see,
50
Rob
down.
Vino, I don't have any. I can't, add stuff like that to the back of his name out of respect. It's just Tony Finn, the long snapper wannabe,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and then it's just Rob Vino, the professional sports bettor extraordinaire.
That's a better
what comes to
title than
mind.
mine. That's a better title than
I'll keep it.
And then there's database Johnny here, John Kelly.
Go see.
John Kelly. Exactly. Exactly.
So, I'm going to end it quick. May all the wins be yours.
Take them.